Another plane belonging to a U.S. airline crashed in Canada, creating panic and confusion while raising even more questions about our seemingly crumbling aviation industry.
Everything, drop it. Come on. Taking the video. Don't take no video. Put that phone away. No. Holy. Okay, no. Oh, fuck. Get the
We're in Toronto. We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down. Fire department's on site.
As you can see, it's a miracle that more people didn't get hurt because this could have easily turned out like what happened in South Korea.
A new report is revealing more about what may have caused a Jeju airline flight to crash in South Korea in December. Only 2 people survived that crash.
And while Trudeau was getting slammed for posting about hockey instead of this crash, NBC decided to blame Donald Trump for a crash that took place in Canada.
Maybe staff cuts at the FAA as a part of President Trump's effort to trim down the federal workforce. And yet, as you also know, the FAA has been complaining for years that they are understaffed in critical job positions, especially air traffic control.
Look, folks, I think at this point it's pretty clear that there is something very, very wrong with our whole aviation industry. But let me just show you the people who have at least tried to look into this problem.
Boeing has not provided us with the documents and information that we have requested numerous times over the past few months, specifically with respect to opening, closing, and removal of the door, and the team that does that work at the Renton facility.
Wow. Are you telling us that even 2 months later, you still do not know who actually opened the door plug? Well, I will say that is utterly unacceptable. And the parties who are being investigated by NTSB need to cooperate fully. And Congress expects them to cooperate fully because you have an obligation to the American public to get to the bottom of what happened.
Last I checked, Ted Cruz was a Republican, and he isn't even the only GOP senator who has tried to go after this greed-infested industry. Just listen to how Josh Hawley slammed industry executives for their borderline criminal practices.
You guys do appreciate that flying on your airlines is a disaster, don't you? I'm slightly amazed by the general attitude of all of you here. Flying on your airlines is horrible. It's a terrible experience. I mean, I say this as a father of 3 young children, but I can't tell you, nobody enjoys flying on your airlines. It's a disaster. You charge people fees that they know nothing about. You harass them to death. I'll never forget, Mr. Johnson, during COVID when an attendant on your airline threatened my wife because our then 5-year-old son, his mask had slipped. This is back when we all had to wear those ridiculous masks. His mask had slipped below his nose. This flight attendant came up to my wife and said, if she didn't keep that mask over his nose at all points on this 4-hour flight, she would personally see that my wife was banned from flying. This has happened over and over to families. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And your attitude here today seems to be, well, devil may care. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, I think we are going to do something about it.
But despite all these efforts, I would still remind you that companies like Boeing have been accused of serious crimes by whistleblowers, and yet there has not been a serious investigation conducted by either party.
Boeing routinely states that their airplanes meet or exceed all safety standards. This is untrue and misrepresents the safety of the airplanes. The company illegally removed thousands of quality control inspections on individual airplanes without the FAA's knowledge and without the knowledge of the airlines. Although many of these inspections have been reinstated, hundreds of airplanes have left Boeing factories without those thousands of inspections. My last point is the Department of Justice and FBI relied on the slanted results of the first MAX accident investigation to develop an illegal and unjust deferred prosecution agreement. The NTSB chair reiterated to Congress last week that Boeing has said there are no records documenting the removal of the Alaska Airlines door. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is a criminal cover-up. Records do in fact exist. I know this because I've personally passed them to the FBI.
I mean, if Donald Trump and his administration are really all about transparency and bringing people to justice, I think they should tell us how those whistleblowers really died.
No, wait, it gets so much worse. John Barnett had been working for Boeing for 32 years until his retirement in 2017. In the days before his death, he had been giving evidence in a whistleblower lawsuit against the company. The 62-year-old had died from a self-inflicted wound. No, it gets worse. He worked for Boeing for 32 years as a quality manager in the North Charleston plant. In 2019, he told BBC that workers had deliberately been fitting substandard parts to aircraft on the production line. He also told BBC that the workers had failed to follow procedures, that substandard parts had been removed from scrap bins and fitted to planes that were built to prevent delays.
And they should also investigate why all of a sudden we're seeing more and more plane crashes. I mean, 87 aviation accidents have already been recorded across the US this year, and we're only in the third week of February. This is absolutely insane, and we need to know what's going on. And speaking of insane things, Elon Musk gave people quite a scare when he made this tweet about Fort Knox. "This gold is the property of the American people. I sure hope it's still there." This scared people because, according to official reports, the facility holds more than 147 million ounces of gold, which is more than half of the gold reserves controlled by the U.S. Treasury, and its value is close to $300 billion. So the thought of it getting stolen is pretty damn scary. And to make matters worse, the last real audit of this facility was done more than 50 years ago in 1974.
Buckle up, because I'm about to take you on a wild ride down a gold bar Fort Knox rabbit hole. Since Doge has been auditing everything, Senator Rand Paul over the weekend sounded the alarm that the United States has more gold bars than any other country, and it's all being stored at Fort Knox. But yet it hasn't been audited since 1974. So he calls on Elon and says, hey, you might want to take a look at this. Elon Musk replies on Twitter and basically says, what? They haven't done an audit since 1974? Yeah, we absolutely should do that. In fact, he suggests doing a live video walkthrough of Fort Knox to ensure that all the gold is there. Now, weirdly, since he made that suggestion, there are reports that U.S. banks are flying gold from London to New York. And I'm talking about gold, I'm talking mass amounts of gold, 8,000 bars worth millions and millions of dollars. Also, since this conversation started taking place, it is now raining all over Kentucky, and Fort Knox and the surrounding areas are under flood warning. So no audits are going to be taking place, at least in the next couple of days.
Now look, the issue of transparency around Fort Knox isn't new. Former Congressman Ron Paul was warning us about it years and years ago.
For far too long, the United States government has been less than transparent in releasing information relating to its gold holdings. Not surprisingly, this secrecy has given rise to a number of theories about the gold at Fort Knox and other depositories. Some people speculate that the gold has been involved in gold swaps with foreign governments or bullion banks. Others believe that the gold has secretly been shipped out of Fort Knox and sold. And still others believe that the bars at Fort Knox are actually gold-plated tungsten. Historically, the Treasury and the Mint have dismissed these theories.
And yet no government has ever tried to even touch this facility. So I think we might make some very shocking discoveries once we open those vaults and check those records. And while we are on the subject of precious minerals, President Trump made it clear what he wants from Ukraine for all of our military aid.
So we're getting security on our money. We're going to have it secured by, they have rare earth, and they have oil and gas, and they have a lot of other things, and we're asking for security on our money.
So does it mean you are not sending any
They've
more
agreed to it. Ukraine has agreed to it.
Does it mean you are not sending any more aid to Ukraine?
No, we are, but we want it secured, and the money is going to be secured.
When will the U.S. stop sending funding? When will the U.S. stop sending funding?
Because if we didn't do that, then Putin would say he won. We're the thing that's holding it back.
And this isn't the first time he's made this proposal. However, this time it looks like the president is serious, but Zelensky, on the other hand, is not too keen on giving up any of those minerals.
На якість цього документа вплив, і тому Я не дав міністрам підписувати відповідну угоду, тому що вона не готова.
Now, apparently, President Trump wants to make it clear that we're only protecting Ukraine because we have business interests there and not because we're at war with Russia. As you can expect, the response to this new policy has been mixed, to say the least. One user, while replying to one of these videos on X, wrote, "At least this way the US gets something in return for all the help." Another one, on the other hand, replied by saying, "If Donald Trump puts American troops in Ukraine to secure rare earth minerals, he will have broken his promise to end the war between Ukraine and Russia. And that's the tight line the president has to walk to keep the trust of his huge voter base. It is good for America to get something in return for the billions of dollars we are giving to Ukraine. However, we definitely don't want to repeat what happened in Iraq." Now, moving on, I want to talk about yet another insane story related to Social Security. Did you know we have millions of people living in this country who were born even before the Great Depression?
This is the number of people in each age group who our Social Security Department says is still alive. We apparently have more than 6 million between the ages of 90 and 99. And that's not even where the craziness starts. See, because we also have nearly 5 million between the ages of 100 and 109, 3.6 million between 110 and 119. I'd like to remind you that the oldest person recorded on Earth right now is 116 years old. But that can't be true, because according to our Social Security Department, we have 3.4 million that are between the ages of 120 and 129. 3.9 million between the ages of 130 and 139, 3.5 million between the ages of 140 and 149, 1.3 million that are 150 to 159 years old, and we not even have people who are above 200, but we even have one who's above 360. And let me just remind you, once you're past this bracket, all of this is eligible for Social Security. But yeah, there's no fraud. There's no reason for Doge.
I mean, is it a surprise that people are now saying things like this?
Elon Musk said there must be vampires collecting Social Security. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Are you going to file taxes anymore after seeing all of this? I'm not advising you not to file taxes, but I'm giving it a second thought. How about you?
That's what happens when you keep wasting or stealing taxpayer money, and unless we put an end to it, things are only going to get more difficult for the working class people of this country. Now, let me know what you guys think about all of these plane crashes. Also, do you think we should be locking up all our gold and not keeping track of it for more than 50 years? Feel free to share your thoughts with everyone in the comments section below. Thank you once again for watching today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one.